out and buy a bigger hat for my swollen head. Thank you. Thank you. It's always good to be in everybody's company here. Resistance. The two mid-century novels that come to my mind first when I talk about resistance or think about it are Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451 and Orwell's 1984. And in 2019, for the 70th anniversary, I was one of the people who was asked by a group just outside Chicago to write based on 1984. So we're going to start with that. My big brother, Winston. 1, the role of government is to take away no, leaving masses in the street to chant more war, more war, leaving women to kneel and say yes, regardless of their hearts, freeing lovers and children and friends, call the police at will. The writer's job is current truth, which later the editor redacts, the historian improves by deletion, and the fireman washes in flame. All of these bathed in sound logic, howled dry with rough terry and kissed on the cheek, before slouching off to their dreams. 2, boats are burning on the water, reflecting the firelight of cities. This is not the way it was, though I pretend to forget. One uncle fighting in Korea, only survivor of his unit. The other serving near Saigon in the years before it all fell down. Not knowing if November would come and find us in our daily lives, or if October would mark the end of us and our pretended genius. Hiding under school desks, as if they'd shield from radiation gifted us by the horrid Russians. MAD, the perfect final acronym. 3, which comes first, the witch or the need to hunt her? For Warlock, even in that title, threatens equally, gives cause for protective, quick destruction. You can help stop them. Must. They might come for you next, may weave you in their lies. I hope you're joking foolishly when you ask me which they I mean. Love is dangerous, you know. Friendship ever suspect. Truth is Janus-faced, fluid. We'll need to take that magazine. There are revisions to an article. Is that a book under your pillow? Perhaps you have a lighter? No? Then allow me the deep pleasure, its orgasmic grimace hidden behind the Janus mask of duty. The year and place overlap fully, the temperature and globe as well. You are here. Wherever you are is here, present and future. Past, unless you believe your memories more than what I tell you is best. One man's dystopia, another's heaven made flesh and blood. The labels scrawled on bold blocks in this Venn diagram don't matter. You are here. 4, passing in the street, can I see you? Later in the day, yes, tomorrow night. As unnoticed as 2 high schoolers in the noise of a crowded hall, or 2 grown lovers in a dangerous time trying every way they can find to survive until the next sharing of small deaths. And even those will be whispered, no more or less than endearments, or their laughter, or joy, sadness. The things they would shout as totally subversive as cheating spouses. These 2 cuckolders of the state in their game of orgasmic roulette. Not the first, not the last to come, even as it holds their personal ends. This simple, impossible coup d'amour with no beginning and no end, no chance of making any matter. Standing in a crowd. Seen Julia? A day or two later, no. Winston? 5. My freshly minted ghost met yours in amber sunlight on the brown field where our bodies became lovers before our souls. I betrayed you, you said. Told them every detail of our insurrectionists' affair and blamed you for it all. As if I hadn't done the same, speaking through pain like some untried teenage poet going on about the most common events. I even begged and hoped for you to suffer, but that was not my real burden. Even as our ghosts parted, sunset fading as the snow began, I enacted my betrayal once again. I didn't tell you that I still love you. A different Memorial Day. 1. Remembering the safari films the local pharmacists would show to various groups on Friday nights, I turn away before the shot comes. When they are gone, when in our greed we've killed them all, what will we kill next? What happens when we come to us, alone but for livestock and pets? 2. How does any parent, even in anger at their partner, accidentally beat a 4-year-old girl to death? How does anybody dump that body, entombed by a black garbage bag, in a rural roadside ditch? 3. If you don't take your own life before the police bring you down, please tell me how the 8 people you just shot caused you to lose your job, your house, your spouse and children, a bet, a fight, your temper, your humanity. 4. Argue as you will the merits of war or self-defense or a hierarchy of evil. Tell me of blind rage and insanity. I'll grant you every foolish reason just to clear the smoke from the field. Now, stick to the question. In our daily lives, how have we come to this? The fall of Paris. We'd been to the clubs that night, letting the world know we were lovers. This was Paris. The spring was 1940, and heads didn't turn to follow us because we were women embracing, but because we were beautifully young. We must have been young, mon chéri. How else could we have found ourselves dancing on a rooftop parapet, looking as if it were nothing 10 lofty stories to the sober Sunday street below? How else could we find each other? This memory doesn't end in disaster. You didn't fall, nor obviously did I. It ends instead in too common tragedy. The Germans came to us in June. I went to the countryside, the resistance. You stayed in the capital, a Jew. Spring night in the forest of the spirit. The old priest stands before the altar. He will not kneel. No words of prayer, either blessing or supplication tonight. It's time for conversation. Son of man to son of man. And if it feeds the passion shining like a beacon from the window of St. George meeting his dragon, well, so be it. Obey the Lord thy God, yes, but don't be afraid to speak out first. The cliff face, the grotesqueries of trees, loom over everything from dirt to stars. It fills the space between tall trunks be alive with horrors both recent and older than the body and the blood. If the landscape of creation stands tall, its very bedrock groaned as if threatened by what the mindless created had wrought. And in the dark, the beacon seems so small, so inconsequential in the face of evil, but not so dim it hasn't brought attention. The faithful will stand against the night, regardless of numbers and stature. If it seems trite these days to speak of good, when so much only seems self-serving, perhaps the selflessness of true good deeds will be strong enough to power recreation. She is all this is about. She is dressed for winter landscapes. She is wrapped in the spare blanket. She has the heater set to blazing. She is cold to the core of her soul. She sits on the outworn motel carpet. She turns her back to the unmade bed. She keeps her back to the still, fresh shame. She can't bear to look at them. She has already showered twice today. She finds the strength to shower again. She soaps her body with her eyes closed. She can barely stand to touch it. She had dinner with him downstairs. She sat and talked with him in her room. She felt safe with her father's brother. She holds the memory of what he did. She turns and turns the images of rape. She squeezes them in her fists. She forces herself to look deep into them. She is as cold as the wrath of demons. A man walks into a square and almost endless expanse of concrete, stops in the path of a tank and waves his arms. Confronted with his pants and shirt, black and white cloth simple against the gray landscape, the green and brown of the metal beast's skin seems almost festive. One day, perhaps, there will be celebrations here. But now, only the silence of a world's held breaths and a world's stilled hearts, waiting, afraid to look away. So many endings stretch toward the horizon, so many ways for one man to live or die protesting yesterday's uncounted deaths in this same place. But in the end, we choose the easiest. A man walks out of a square and is forgotten. Matthew 19, verse 13. A child from someplace like Florida, Connecticut, or Colorado spoke to you, said, "I'm tired of fearing violence. We need to make a change. Fuck this. I can't vote yet, but you need to bring change." Would you listen and act, be inspired, or correct their choice of expletives, deny the weight of their experience when balanced by their tender age? Think on this. What if they were yours? If they were your brothers or your sisters, the children of your neighbors? What then? What if a Dapchi girl, her life destroyed by the so-called men of Boko Haram, or a Yemeni brother and sister, orphaned in the bloody rubble of an entire country, came to you in search of sanctuary, of a place to live without daily fear? Would your religion welcome them? Would you embrace them at once? Or would you reject them, indifferent? Think on this. They are yours. They are your brothers and sisters. They are your neighbors. Now what? There was a die-in downtown today. A couple hundred students from the university lying crumpled on the street for a full block to speak without words against the violence encroaching deeper each day into the landscape of life. And the evening news and more about the inconvenience caused. I thought of a remote taxiway at the airport, filled with the supposedly injured and dying, all in rough makeup as part of a crash drill for surrounding EMS, ambulances, and fire trucks everywhere, and how the airlines didn't want arriving passengers scared by thinking it could be real. Which led me, 50 years later, to the carnage on the flight deck when they flew in 6 medevac birds, all loaded. The real blood from real wounds bathing real bodies. The efforts at triage and the clergy trying to at least save souls, and how it never made the news at all until just now. As most of you have probably gathered from social media and from my posts in the chats here the last month or two, I'm doing a 30-30 in April for children's cancer cures. And this is yesterday's poem. There's a candle in the window, lit as resistance to the human night. Perched atop a precious stick handed down since before borders were created, resting on a saucer in a soup cup, a simple tin with holes to spread the light. Sometimes it has company, a second flame on the sill or friends in other windows, groups on a single tree-like candelabra, secular or shaped by faith. Even one serves to hold back darkness, while together many show that what lurks is frightened in the chaste shadows, and brave multitudes cast shame on what would bury hope, bring harm, breed lies. The aggressor's flag is shown for what it is, will become harmless without power, after a photograph in Kiel before the Holocaust. And finally, on an almost positive note, love is an act of resistance. Sharing the land. She brings them corn and berries, cups of tooth-like white kernels and handfuls of sweet softness. She speaks the names she's given, honey child, soft eyes, and more. They call back in their own tongues. They thank her for her kindness, add words passed on by birds, by squirrels and snakes and bears. Her dear friends have a name for her, shared from doe to fawn, again, forever. If only she could know it. Just her heart. Thank you all.
Yes.